Hey everybody, it's Jared with Heat Press Nation, and you are listening to or watching the Customizing Culture podcast. I'm your host, and I am very excited to have our special guest today, interior designer and creator, Jo Gick. Jo, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Man, I am so excited. I'm so happy to have you join us today. We're going to get into your story right now. I'm kind of fanboying. And we actually, for those of you guys who don't know, me and Jo actually met in Hawaii, of all places. We were at the Silhouette Conference. Yeah. And so I knew like just a few days before that she was going to be there. And so she joined me on camera for an interview. It's on our YouTube right now. And I remember when I first met you in person, Jo, I was just like, you're famous.
I was like, what? No, I'm not.
Yeah. So those of you guys who don't know, Jo was a finalist, short of one, in my opinion.
Thank you. Finalist
on season 1 of Making It. But for people who may not know you, Jo, there's so much more to your story than just making it. So if you can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I guess I identify as like an interior designer. I came out to Arizona from Ohio when I was right after I graduated high school, and I got my degree in interior design. And I had my own firm with my business partner for like 13 years. COVID hit, and then I was like, I'm done with this. Being on Making It, I got like a big fan following. People are asking where I got stuff that I had made in my designs, and now that's what I do. I have an Etsy, and I just make stuff all day, so I love it.
Living the dream,
right?
Yeah,
for sure.
So if we can kind of go through your story for a bit. Now, as I understand it, you're a lifelong creator, right? So you've been crafting even before TV or anything like that.
Yeah, it's funny. It was always like a release for me. Like I would always try to integrate things I could make into my the kids' spaces I would design and things for my clients, because I just wanted to like physically make something. And I just always it was like something I did for fun on the side. And I never filmed it, and it was just like for me, it was just because I just loved doing it. And people are like, you made that? And I'm like, yeah, like it was fun. Like this is how I did it. Like, isn't it exciting? I would always like crawl out of my craft room in the middle of the night and like be like, I can't wait for my husband to wake up so I can show him what I made last night, And he's always like, what? Like, you did that overnight, so it's pretty fun. I just love it. I don't know why.
Have you seen the movie Elf?
The movie what?
Elf, the Christmas movie?
Uh-huh.
Is it kind of like when they come out and like, whoa, buddy, you did this all in one night? Is it kind of like that?
Yeah. Totally. And what's funny? Like, even as a kid, I would do that. Like, I would stay up late and I would make things, and then I would wait for my mom to wake up in the morning so I could like show her what I made, So it was pretty funny.
I love that. It's like Christmas all year round. Like
right?
Waiting Christmas Eve, because as a dad, or actually for me, the older brother, I would like assemble the bikes for my younger brothers. And, you're waiting for the morning time. Like, I didn't buy it, but I built it. So like,
yeah. It works. Yeah. Funny. Because it's like, it's the sense of accomplishment that you get from making something. Yes. And I think that's like, there's really very few ways to get that feeling. And so I think that's why I love it so much. It's always been my therapy, like my entire life. It's just like, okay, I'm having a bad day, or I just want to get lost in a project and not worry about my problems, Do
you remember one of your first crafts where you had that sense of satisfaction? Like, I made this, somebody else likes it. Like, whoa, like, do you remember one of your first projects?
Yeah, when I was, I want to say like, I don't know. I mean, been making my whole life, but one time that I really remember is when my mom worked for a public television station, and there was like this, I don't even know how to explain it. It was like this plastic, and you would melt it in hot water, and then you could kind of like, it became malleable, and you could kind of like
that's cool.
Make stuff out of it. I don't think they even have it anymore. And it
probably wasn't safe.
Probably not.
I think of my old creepy crawlers set. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remember that.
Not safe. Yeah. Not safe.
So, I would make these little like TV pins that said WGTE, which was the station that she worked at. And all of the people at her work would buy them. and I just like couldn't
I love
believe
it.
that like I was like this, okay, like how many can I make? Can I make different styles and different colors and all these things? And I remember my dad, my dad was a maker too. He handmade knives. Um,
Very cool.
he made like almost like a cookie cutter out of little tiny, and he made the WGTE so I could just stamp it out of the plastic. So it's like
Mhm.
I just remember like people wanting to buy those, and I was like so satisfied by that. I loved it.
Oh man, I love that. But how old were you when that happened?
I want to say maybe I was in like fourth grade.
Oh, so you were like young.
Yeah, no, I was really young.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Okay, so truly a lifelong crafter.
truly. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And so then, so going into interior design, you're making stuff for your clients. Are you still getting that sense of satisfaction? Like they see that, like, oh, where'd you get that? Huh, let me tell you.
Well, actually, yeah. I mean, I used to do like a bunch of custom stuff for clients, like custom artwork. I remember I did this superhero room, and I was like, I wanted to do something that like it didn't look like it was in Pottery Barn. It didn't look like everyone had it on Pinterest or whatever. So you remember those perler beads that they actually got popular again, but you iron them and they make like a pattern.
Yeah.
Well, they had like a superhero kit. And so I made all the superheroes out of perler beads and then framed them all like in like a whole gallery. And it was so cool. They all look pixelated and like
Oh, that's
just like
legit.
using things in a different way is my like favorite thing to do.
I love that. So then high school, graduate, degree in interior design. Do you go straight into starting your own firm? Like you're set. This is what I'm doing.
No, actually, so in high school, I took every single art class possible, right? I took,
Mhm.
pottery and stained glass and everything that I could possibly take.
So
Um,
you're like that explains a lot because you're a super well-rounded creator,
yeah, I want to try
as
everything.
evidenced on the show.
Yeah, I like literally, I want to try everything and I want to try to use it in a different way that people have never seen before. Like, that's so much fun to me to like reinvent things. So
Mhm.
after high school, I went to high school in Ohio. It was a really small town. My older brother lived out here and he's 10 years older than me. And he's like, well, what do you want to go to school for? I'm like, well, I want to go to school for art. And he's like, well, you're never going to make any money doing that. And I was like, well, then what am I supposed to do? That's what I want to do. And he's like, well, why don't you be an interior designer because you can make money doing that? And I'm like, okay. So in college, I still took every single art class I could, like elective that wasn't like in the art program, but they let you take it on top of my
Yeah.
interior design stuff, just because I loved it so much. And I guess the funny thing now is like, although I loved being an interior designer and I felt like I excelled at it, I'm really doing now what I've always just wanted to do, and that's being an artist.
Yeah.
So I guess I almost feel like more fulfilled now than I used to. Um, I guess being an interior designer is a lot of just like paperwork and ordering, and like I would say like maybe 25% of it is being creative, and the other
Wow.
75% of it is like business management and managing clients and like all that kind of stuff, which is fine, but it's also not really fun, you know?
Yeah. That's really surprising because someone as far as 'cause of course in a creative field, but not in interior design. To me, I think interior design, you're just artboarding all day, and then someone else goes and they buy your carpet for you, and they buy the this, the that
No,
for
no, no,
you.
no.
Wow.
Not
So
when you're a small firm like we were, for sure not.
okay. So that's really interesting because so here at Heat Press Nation, yes, I get to do creative things. I get to make videos, create content, and that kind of scratches the creative itch for me. But yeah, there's a lot of in marketing and in sales, like yeah, there's a whole lot of not fun, not heat press stuff that you have to do.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of funny to discover that in other industries, even in creative fields, in creative positions like interior design, that yeah, it's a grind sometimes.
Well, like the worst thing would be like, you have this awesome design and then, you talk your client into getting this sofa, right? And it takes 16 weeks to get it. And then it comes in and it's all has a big like tear down the middle of it.
Oh
And
man,
then you have to tell them and then they're like, "But Christmas is next week." And you're like, I don't know what to do." And
yeah.
it's like that added stress is like I just like I don't know if it's just because I'm like a people pleaser and I always wanted everyone to be happy, but that was like a lot of stress for me. And the funny
Mm.
thing is like it's more lucrative for me now to just make art than it was for me to be an interior designer.
Okay, so that was actually going to be one of my questions, but you kind of answered that for me. So we'll come back to making it because, of course, I could spend 2 hours just on talking
Right.
about that, on your experience there. So comparing your experience as a creator, as a I say graphic designer, as an
Mhm.
interior designer, to now just creating, like, how much of your workload now is that kind of back end management and fulfillment and all that stuff versus, because you were saying you're doing only 25% creative, 75% kind of that back end management. What would you say the ratio is now?
I would say like maybe 5 to 10% management and 90% creativity because
There you
like on my
go.
Etsy shop, like that it does all the stuff for me.
Hmm.
It does the marketing for me a lot. I mean, I have to do Instagram and stuff, but like I can, do marketing on it. It pays my taxes for me already. It does all that stuff that like I hated to do. I mean, like talking with the customers on there is just emailing them back and forth. That's easy. And
Hmm.
it's kind of like I made this. Do you want to buy it? Great, buy it. If you have if it's damaged, I'll replace it. But it's like it's not like I'm selling you this whole thing and you're like, I don't know. I just don't like that rug. And I'm like, "Oh,
A
okay.
lot less convincing, right?
Yeah, and then you're like, okay, well, here's 10 more. And they're like, I can't decide. You gave me so many choices. And I'm like, oh my God, just make a decision, because like I'm very decisive and I'm very good at like kind of talking you into like what my design is because
Hmm.
I know at the end they're going to love it and they always do. But it's like, it's exhausting, honestly. Like it is. And so for this, it's like, I made this. This is what it looks like. This is how big it is. This is how much it costs. Do you want to buy it or not? Like it's very simple. So,
Yeah.
and I think like, and I loved working with all my clients when I did interior design. That was one of my favorite parts. So the creative part and then working with the people was my favorite part. And it's a lot of the same now. The creative part's my favorite of making, coming up with new stuff. But then I just love like interacting with all my customers on Instagram and through Etsy. Like, oh, I love this. And they take pictures and like that makes me feel so good that like I made this and they love it. And, so those are the two things I love about design and making. And that kind of, I'm fulfilled by doing my Etsy shop with those two.
So I have a question. You did graduate with your degree in interior design.
Right.
Of course, lifelong creator before that.
Right.
How, when it comes to creativity, and I should say for business people, so people who have to, who are creative as an occupation,
Right.
as how much would you say creativity can be learned, and how much is just inherent?
Yeah. Um, I would say like 40% is learned.
Hmm.
So, I see a lot of women that call themselves interior designers, but they haven't gone to school. And you can tell by some of the things they do in their designs, like the form and the function, those type of things. Like spatially, they haven't learned how to space plan correctly, that kind of thing. That's all learned in school. Doing AutoCAD and, you know, just things you have to think about that's not all about just making it look pretty. But I think as far as like the style and doing something creative is either you're creative and you can come up with new things or you're just copying everything you see. So
Hmm.
there's designers that can make a room look really pretty, but it looks like every other room on Pinterest. And then there's designers that can like really pave their own way and do things that are different. And I feel like those are the designers that make it into the magazines, not the ones that
Hmm.
are like just doing everything like everyone else does. Because the magazines don't want that. People just keep seeing that over and over again.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
it's sort of like you can be a successful interior designer and make things for the masses, or you can be someone that wants to pave the way for new things to come out. So I guess it just depends. Like I've had some friends that went to school with me in interior design and they're just like, I don't really like it. Like they just ended up not even doing that. And I remember people telling me like, "Oh, you got your," like I remember when I was working at Neiman Marcus, that's how I paid. I sold handbags to like pay my way through school.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember one lady that worked there with me. She's like, "Oh, you'll never use your degree." She's like, "I have my degree in communications, and I'm here selling jewelry." And I'm thinking, okay, well, that's not what it's going to be for me. Like, this is what I want to
Yeah.
do. And it all just depends, like, if you love it or not. If it fuels you. But I remember, like, when my kids were really little, we were our firm was just starting to take off, and I was just grinding all the time. I was never home. My husband had to always take care of the babies. Like, I felt so guilt. I had this mom guilt, but I'm like, I know, like, one day this is going to be like, a big thing and da da da. But it was so hard. I look back and I think like, and I see those moms doing that now, like grinding at that age that I was at, like, I don't know, like late 20s, early 30s. And I'm like, girl, you do your thing, because once you get to be like 40 something like me, you're going to be like, okay, does that really make me happy? You know? And then you kind of like, I don't know. I really think COVID like just woke me up and was like, okay, you have all this time to just chill and like think. And I was
Hmm.
just like, this isn't what I want to do. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be in the rat race. I want to be at home doing things that make me happy. So, um, that's kind of just the direction I took. And I'm so glad I did.
Yeah. So COVID is 2020.
Right.
You mentioned off camera you started filming, making it in 2017. It comes out in 2018. What would you say was more the catalyst for branching out to be your kind of just your own creative work versus like what was the catalyst for making that move? I should say, was it more making it? Was it more COVID? Both?
I really didn't see an uptick like on my followers on Instagram. I wouldn't say until like, I don't know, 2019.
Hmm.
So I don't know how many of my followers, I really only use Instagram. I know I should be using TikTok, but I really don't use it. I would say most of my followers on Instagram, I don't know how many of them found me through making it, to be honest. I mean, once in a while, someone will be like, "Oh my gosh, I loved you on making it." I'm thinking, "Oh yeah, I forgot I was on there. Like it
I
was
was on
forever ago."
that.
But now I just think it's like people like sharing like the things that I make, and blah blah blah. I mean, I don't really know. It's really hard to say.
Okay,
I know for
that's
me,
fair.
like I think that it helped launch my Etsy, because Etsy was doing a lot of marketing around the show, and oh, this is Joe from making its pay, Instagrams or
Okay. Hmm.
Etsy shop, but I'm not really sure. But definitely, everyone was at home buying things online in 2020, and that's
Hmm.
when my Etsy shop really took off. Well, it was like
Gotcha.
bananas. I was like, what the heck? Like, I never thought that would happen. So I mean, it's definitely slowed down since then. Every year it slows down a little bit more. But I'm starting to look into doing some wholesale stuff. So that could be, a different direction I can go along with. It's just hard because I hand make everything. So
Right. You can only do two hands can only do so much.
yeah.
So when exactly did you make the jump? You said, "Hey, I'm no longer doing interior design. I'm only going to focus on my own shop, my own creative shop."
Yeah, I mean, before the pandemic hit, I was starting to kind of slow down. I told my business partner, like, hey, I'm just thinking, like, I had just finished like this 8,000 square foot house, and I did it from the ground up. Like, you know, every single thing in that house, every single piece of everything I had selected or designed or everything. And I did it all by myself. And it was a lot. It was a lot to manage. And I had an assistant, but like she was really young and didn't really know much about design. I mean, she helped me kind of, cross my T's and dot my I's and call people and stuff like that. But it was really stressful. And I was like, you know what? I'm just like, I want to be done. And then COVID hit. And then I was like, well, I can't see anybody. So I was just like at home, and I'm like, this is kind of great. Like, this is kind of great not
Yeah.
having to like, and so I ended up the few clients I had left, I was like, hey, I want to wrap up your project. I'm not going to be doing this anymore. And they were kind of like, okay. And I'm like, so yeah, it was just like, made it real easy to just cut it off. But I still have clients calling me now, Jo, will you please just do this one room for me? Please, can be your comeback. I'm like, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah. You have to respect your peace enough to
Yeah.
to decline.
Yeah. I mean, I was having heart palpitations. I was like, stomach problems, weight gain, like all the things. Like I was like couldn't like physically take the stress anymore. I'm like, I'm gonna die by the time I'm like 60,
Yeah, and it's funny. We're just talking to somebody on the podcast about that, where the stress is just so much. It physically manifests, and if you're not taking care of yourself physically and mentally, your business will suffer.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So, yeah. So I'm glad you had the foresight and the self-awareness to say, hey, I'm going to do what's right for me. That's really awesome.
Yeah. It was hard. It was a hard choice. I mean, it was like, I built this baby up with my business partner, and she still runs it. And, she's doing great, but we got to do a lot of cool things. Like, we even designed, Russell Wilson, the football player, and his wife, Sierra. We designed like several of their kids' rooms in a couple of their different houses. Cool. So that was really cool. Like they flew us first class to Seattle, and we're like, oh my gosh, we're in first class. We're just like these like two mom designers that like, we're like, okay, we're not like this big firm or this big fancy anything. But it was cool because they recognized our talent, and they were willing to, give us a chance. And they were really, I mean, they still keep coming back, and, Jen keeps helping them. So, I mean, that was really cool. So that was a cool experience.
That is super cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay. So we have to talk about making it.
Okay.
If not for anybody else, for
you.
Me.
Yeah.
Cause I'm a big fan. And I think I mentioned this in Hawaii. I think one of my biggest jealousies in life is that you got to hang out with Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman.
Right.
So I guess first question, let's make it a fanboy question. How were they?
So they were super cool. Very down to earth. I'm not like the type of person that gets starstruck. I don't know why. I just really don't. I don't know if it's like when I was working at Neiman Marcus, a lot of celebrities would come in and people would be like, ah, and I was just like, and they would be like, you just have to like treat them like they're a normal person. Don't act crazy, So like, I always like, I guess was like, okay, I just want to treat them like, anyone else. But like, I didn't really know that much about Nick Offerman because I didn't watch Parks and Rec at all. I'm not really like a scripted comedy kind of a girl. I'm more like documentaries and like murder shows. That's the kind of stuff I like. It's my dirty little secret.
Stuff. Yeah.
So got killed in the bedroom at with the knife. I love that stuff. I don't know why. Ask me about any true crime thing, I can tell you all about it. And I totally geek out when they're like in my hometown of Ohio in Toledo. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what happened. Sister Mary got murdered at the hospital. That's where I was born. Like I totally geek out on that stuff. But anyway,
that is so funny. My wife loves that stuff. I can't watch it.
Really? Yeah, some people don't like it. But yeah, Amy Poehler. Go ahead. What?
Oh, no. I was just gonna say, it makes me so aware. I can't look at anybody the same way. It was the priest you would never expect. Right. Now, every time I see a priest, I'm nervous he's gonna stab me in the neck.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. So Amy Poehler, I really geeked out about Amy Poehler because I've been watching Saturday Night Live. Since I was like really young. Like my cousins and I would do Saturday Night Live skits all the time. We have all these videos of us doing them. So I loved her on that. And she was just like, I don't know. She just felt like an older sister, like super sweet. She was like, she told me this, and this was like maybe one of the biggest compliments I've ever gotten in my entire life. But she was like, Jo, she's like, you totally give me like Reese Witherspoon vibes. And I'm like, I love her, and she knows Reese Witherspoon. You know what I mean? Like, really knows her.
Oh, of course she does. Yeah.
So I'm
like, my gosh.
Thank you. So, she was just super cool. I was, just talking to her about whatever, and she would just kind of, they would like tease me and, it was just really fun.
So how did you end up on that show? So you're doing interior design, not exactly. I mean, you're incorporating crafts into your work,
Yeah.
but you're not like a dedicated. I would say, or is it safe to say you're not like a dedicated crafter at the time?
Yeah, I always felt like it was just kind of like I didn't have a craft room or anything like that. I would just like pull out
Mm.
all this crap on the dining table and like make something when I,
Yeah.
had a chance when I wasn't busy doing interior design. Um, but so I don't know. Yeah, I wasn't a dedicated crafter, but so it's funny. So I have a lot of friends that are like makers and stuff and crafty people too. And they were like, Jo, are you going to apply for making it? And I'm like, what's that? They're like, oh, it's like this crafting competition show. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm crafty. I think I'm going to apply for that. So like, I remember like I was drinking like maybe a bottle of wine that night. And I was just like on my phone, filling out the whole application. It took forever. And then it was like, you had to put like pictures of like stuff you had made. And I remember one of the pictures was this giant paper mache dodo bird that I made for my son for his first birthday because his name's Doran, but we call him Dodo. So he had a
That's cute.
dodo bird birthday party, and I like did all the dodo bird things and had this crazy party for him. And I remember like when they interviewed me like on online or whatever, they were like, "Can you show us that dodo bird?" And I'm like, isn't it cool? So it took me like forever to make because I cut out each feather like
Oh.
out of tissue paper and like glued each one
Mm.
on and it looked like feathers. And then I was like, it was supposed to be a piñata. And I'm like, okay, I cannot like I spent way too much time in this. Like no one is hitting this with a stick. Like forget it.
Right,
So
right.
it was just
Oh,
the
that's funny.
centerpiece on the table for the party. And he still has it in his room.
Oh, that's so cool.
But like,
But
yeah.
I can totally see that. Like you're not touching that.
No,
No, no, no.
I'm
We're
like,
gonna
no
get you
one
the
is
phone.
whacking this. They didn't even know it was a pinata. They just thought it was a decoration. And then I have a picture of him sitting with it when he's like 1 year old and he's so chubby and cute, like sitting with it. It's cute.
So then that got you that. I'm sure that must have sealed the deal then for them. They're like, okay, we're getting her. You're on the
Yeah, it
show.
was weird. So then I was like, oh my gosh, they want to talk to me. Like, this is weird. So then they flew me out to LA and I was in this like sequestered room. And then I came down and they were like, okay, come into this room. We're going to ask you questions. And I was like, okay. I walk into the room and it's like all these lights, all these cameras, like this like director's chair. They're like, okay, sit here and we want to ask you questions. And I was like, okay. And I guess Amy Poehler was like in the other room watching it all. I didn't know that. So she kind of hand selected like who she wanted to be on the show. And then I came out and I didn't know who this lady was, but she was like the writer of the show. And she's like,
Mhm.
Jo, she's like, you're the exact type of person we're looking for this show. And I'm like, okay, like, I didn't know she was like the head chick. She's like, you're just like a down to earth person that likes to make things and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, pretty much. Like, that's just, I think it's fun. And so
Yeah.
I didn't really think anything of it. And I thought, like, they're never going to pick me, like, whatever, this is and I was like so surprised that they did. So yeah, I was like, did you notice that I had to wear like a plaid shirt in every single episode?
Yes. Well, you have to wear the. I don't know. Is it overalls or it's like an apron?
An
It's an
apron, but
apron,
I had
right?
to wear like a literal like flannel shirt on every single episode. And I was like,
Oh, I did. I
I
didn't
was like
catch that.
the I was like the lumberjack mom. I don't know. They like that was my persona. Like I'm like
Oh, that's funny.
I
Okay.
don't wear plaid shirts every day. Like
And
uh, you
then
know,
they're like, but you do now.
yeah. I mean, I had some in my closet.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, it was the summer when we filmed, and they're like, well, it's airing in the winter, so you have to wear winter clothes. And I remember it was like 100 degrees in
Oh.
LA, and I had that flannel shirt on, and my hair was down, and I was like, you guys, I am so hot. Like, I cannot have my hair down with this hot shirt on. I'm like, I'm gonna die. And I was like running around outside, like spray painting stuff. And I'm like, can I just put my hair in a ponytail? And they're like, no, you have to have your hair the same for the entire show. It was like just crazy stuff like that you wouldn't even think about. But
Yeah.
I mean, I made it through, but it was really rough. It was really rough.
I bet. How is it like? Because you're putting all your different craft skills through their paces. Like I can't think of many other situations where someone would get to flex all their maker muscles in such a short period of time.
Well, it was funny because I felt like a lot of the contestants did you like use their same medium that kind of like was their thing, um, which I can appreciate. But like for me, like I wanted to show that I can do a little bit of everything. Like that was kind of like my game plan going in because I do pride myself on like trying to learn everything. I like to know how to do
Hmm.
everything, and I did a lot of things on the show that I'd never done for the first time. Like doing the I think it's called batik, like the fabric where you dye it, you like fold it and dye it. I'd never done that before, and I did it for the
Hmm.
first time. I'm trying to think what other things I did on the show that I hadn't done before. Um,
I liked your cake topper. Was that a first one?
um, yeah, I mean, I've never been a wire into people and like put a floral on it. No, I've never done that before. But I was like, oh, I can do this. Like I've bent wires for things before. I was like, this would be
Hmm.
kind of cool. And it was funny because that one was kind of just like a last minute, like, oh crap, I have to come up with a cake topper. Okay. I'm like, and it had to go along with the story of these people and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, all right. And then it won. And I was like, what? Like, okay.
Oh yes, yes. You won the badge for that
I'm
one.
like, I pulled that one out of my ass. I was like super bummed. But like, you know what? Kiem, who won, he was very, very talented. I mean, he could do some crazy things with wood. So, he was young. He's just getting married. So I'm sure he needed the money just as much as I did. So, all's well that ends well. But I was like kind of bummed. So,
Oh,
it's like
I bet.
any other show. I'm sure anyone that doesn't win a show, is bummed. So,
Yeah. If they asked you back for an all-star season, right? Would you go back? Do you think you'd go again?
I don't know. I don't know if like at this point in my life I would want to take on that stress.
Mm,
Um, I don't know. Maybe.
yeah. Now, since the show, you've been featured in magazines, in I don't know if it's been other TV shows, but like I've seen like your media kit, and I was like, wow, this is pretty rad. My biggest takeaway was the spread in HGTV magazine,
Yeah.
where they show off. I know some of your crafts made it in there, but really showing off your interior design skills. Have you? How is that like? Would you say that the show has opened like a lot of doors, a little doors? Like, what's been your kind of takeaway post show?
Um, I don't really think I really don't think making it had anything to do with the HGTV magazine spread. Just because
Mm-hmm.
like our stuff, like we would always get our the houses that we designed, we would always get them photographed, professionally photographed, and they would be like go nuts on Pinterest. And so I had like a lot of little things in the magazine, rooms here and there. And they were like, I said, hey, like I just remodeled my whole house. Like, do you guys want to see pictures? Because I had connections with like the editors and stuff there. And they're like, sure. So I sent it over and they're like, oh my gosh, like, okay, we want to, do a thing. And I'm like, okay, cool. I was like, and it's funny because I remember when I was pregnant with my daughter, I was like 27. And I remember like I would take a bath every night because I was so miserable. And I remember like just reading my HGTV magazines and thinking like, "Ah, I just really want to be in this magazine one day. Like I love this magazine. It's so colorful. It's so like my vibe. Like that was like one of my design rainbows that I wanted to jump over. And when
Mm-hmm.
it happened, I was just like, I can't believe that I am in this magazine. Like this is insane. That was one of the really big like I made it kind of a feelings for me. Um, so we added an addition onto our house. This is part of our addition, my craft room. And they keep like, hey Joe, are you going to send us pictures of your audition? So I'm hoping maybe my audition can get in there too.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I have to get the professional pictures taken first because that's really what grabs them, I think. Because I style it all exactly like it would look in a magazine and then send them the pictures. So yeah.
Man, that's pretty awesome. So like, because honestly, me naive think, oh, TV just opens so many doors. You can do so many things. Let's all get on TV. But really, you've just been grinding and putting in the work,
Yeah.
and just absolutely kicking butt. I'm sure there are benefits for everybody. I'm sure they have different experiences, but in your case, it's just been, hey, you put your head down, you get the work done, and then you're kind of just hitting these goals and these dreams and these bucket list items by just doing good work. And to me, that's really inspiring.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean,
sometimes. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really all you can do. I mean, is just, and the hard thing for me is like, a lot of times I just want to make things for me. I just want to do something because, like, I just want to do it. I don't want to film it. I don't want to talk about it. And so it's hard because it's like, I want to share with everybody, but it's like, I don't want to edit the video. I don't want to this, it takes the fun out of it for me, honestly. But like I like to do things that make me feel good and make me feel rewarded. And then, having the whole photo shoot and taking all the pictures and it's a pain, but it's like, it's what you have to do to like get your stuff out there, So it's just all part of like marketing yourself, which is always weird because you're like, hey, yeah, I do this and I do this and I was on this show and da da da. And you just feel like all you're just talking about yourself. But it's like people aren't going to know unless you talk yourself up,
Right. That's like one of the unique things about being your own business, which as a creator, you typically are. I mean, you're not always the product, but you're part of it. Right. You're the business. Yeah. And if you were to market your business, you're marketing yourself. And it's like, and especially for people like me who is like, I don't want to put myself, like, I don't like, maybe like maybe it's a self-esteem issue, but it's like, oh, I don't want to promote me. I'll just, I'll hide behind something, in my band. Like, I feel like I could do anything as long as I have a guitar. The guitar is I hide behind that guitar. Like you wouldn't believe. If you were to take that away, I'm just going to go hide behind something else. Cause like, I don't want to, I don't know.
I know. I always feel like that too. Like, oh, I'm not as pretty as like some of these blogger moms and the interior designers that they literally look like they're, magazine. They're like just jumped out of a magazine. Like, I'm just like, hi, like I'm this like mom, and I don't wear makeup a lot. Like this is as dolled up as I get. Like I got dolled up for you today. So you're welcome, but
we're honored. We're honored.
But usually I'm like in my pajamas, like, and like if I want to take a quick Instagram story, like I look like crap, and then I'm like, no one's gonna want to like look at me, So I think everybody has that. There's some people that don't care, and there's some people that care so much that they get dolled up every day, and that's just not me. I just want to like, I don't know. I'm lazy, or maybe I'm just lazy. That's what it is.
No, we're promoting being ourselves. That's
right. Yeah, be yourself.
Yeah, there
like
we go.
Shit. It's okay.
Like, I really appreciate you just sharing so much of the experience. I think it's an experience that a lot of our viewers are just not privy to.
Yeah.
And like me, they just think that like, I know a lot of people think like, oh, once you hit something, that's it.
I know. I thought, oh, like, I'm going to be on this show and then, like, all these wonderful things are going to happen, but it just doesn't really work that way, I mean, there's so many reality TV people. I mean, the only reason everybody knows Johnny Bananas is because he's been on 21 real world challenges. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like this one little blonde girl that was on, like, this one show in 2018 on 6 episodes. Like, I don't know. Unless you're like really into making it, you wouldn't know who I was. I just look like I look like anyone else on the street, So.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, and especially when it comes to like, if we're applying this to like viral success or even just successful social media, we were talking with a maker, 3 Pairs of Ears, Lauren, and something from that episode that really got me is she had viral success on one of her TikToks, I think it was, and then kept having really solid success. And so basically what she was saying was like, you can get lucky once maybe, but it takes a lot of hard work to stay quote unquote lucky.
Yeah.
And you're not actually staying lucky. What you're doing is you're just sustaining that. Maybe you did once get lucky with a certain amount of exposure.
Right.
But if you're able to sustain that and keep those views and things, keep your channel or your business growing, it's because you're putting in the hard work. And that's definitely what I'm getting from you is there's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of effort that goes into it.
Yeah.
Much, much bigger than just one show, one season, one this or one that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's only like a very small percentage of the things that I've done, you know? I mean, the thing about the show that was really fun is like, I took like this, it almost felt like a 4-week vacation from design and my clients. And I got to just make a whole bunch of shit that I never made before with like a whole, like endless amounts of craft supplies, anything that I wanted or needed. And it was like, it was so fun because it was like, when do you ever get that opportunity to just like stop your everyday grind and like just go make a bunch of shit on TV with like a bunch of cool people, you know? It's like, it's kind of like a dream. I mean, it was stressful because it's like, you only have this much time, you know? But it was a challenge and I love challenges. Like, you know, I love when someone's like, I should honestly have like people like think of challenges for me and like do them and just see what I could come up with.
That would probably make for a killer like YouTube series or something like that. That sounds fun as heck. I already want to watch that, and you just barely pitched it right now. I'm in.
Well, the thing, like, okay, here's a perfect example: is Halloween costumes, right? So my kids are like, I want to be this, and I'm like my son wanted to be this plant guy from like Cookie Run Kingdom. I don't know. It was like this game he liked.
I don't even know what that is.
Okay, it was this game that he liked, and I was like, okay, show me what he looks like. And I literally made his costume. It looked exactly like the freaking character. No one knew who he was because no one plays Cookie Run Kingdom, but he looked just like him. And then
there's like one other kid in the neighborhood who's like,
yeah, Cookie Run Kingdom. And then this year he was like, oh, I want to be a giant black croc, like the shoe. So I made him a giant black croc. It's on my Instagram. You should go see it. It's pretty sick.
I don't know how I missed that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and he was like, and he only has one like gibbet or charm or whatever on his shoe left, and I made the charm on there too. So he's like, his head sticks out of one of the holes, and then he's got like his charm.
Dude, that is awesome.
I made it out of black foam core. It took me like all night, but it was pretty cool.
That's see, because now as I'm a parent now, barely. I have a 1-year-old, and now there's like this, and I know we're not supposed to be in competition with each other, but there's a friendly competition of like, oh yeah, well you did this, oh yeah, well I made my son this for lunch, and it's a grilled cheese sandwich. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, you know, so, you know, there's a little bit of bragging rights you get when you have a cool costume or anything. We were Jurassic Park, so we put him in a little store-bought dinosaur costume, and we just had regular t-shirts, but I custom made us these Jurassic Park park badges, like staff ID. And so that was my big like, oh yeah, my big maker. You know, very simple. I had like one day to prepare. But you know, amongst our crew, I was like, yeah.
I always say like, I'm not the mom that goes to parent-teacher meetings or might drop you off at school every day. But if you want a cool costume or a fancy birthday cake, I'm your girl.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So I know where my place is, okay? And hopefully I'm making memories for my kids, and they're gonna be like, oh, tell their kids like, Grandma made us the coolest costumes, you know? Because like now I don't feel like they really appreciate it. But I feel like when they get older, they will.
How could he not appreciate a giant croc?
I mean, they're like, cool, Mom. I'm like, this is sweet, you know? And then there was like a costume contest at his school. And there were like these 3 boys in like these ghillie suits that their parents had bought, obviously. And Doran and his croc. And guess who won? The ghillie suits.
Not the
I'm like, this was handmade.
Well, now I'm writing letters to 2 people. I'm writing letters to making it, and now whoever ran that.
Fulton Elementary.
There we go. Oh, man.
So,
Okay, so sorry, really quick to bring it back to the business. Now, you have a lot of experience in running multiple businesses. So you're running the Etsy shop right
right.
now. Um, what are your? Because I know a lot of our customers they're getting started on
Hmm.
Etsy. Doing a lot of like heat press stuff, like whether it's T-shirts or coffee mugs, tumblers, things like that. And they're always asking us for Etsy tips. And I suck at Etsy, so I'm not the person. So, in your experience, what kind of tips do you have for people who want to start their shop on Etsy and they have a cool product, unique product, but
Hmm.
they just can't seem to get off the ground?
I think the very biggest thing is like professional photos.
Mm.
Um, because that's the stuff that like Etsy will push forward, and like you'll see like there's like an Etsy team, like I forget what they call them, but they like have like Etsy picks. So it's like their favorite listings, and a lot of times it has to be like you have really good reviews, you have um you ship things out on time and you answer people good, like you're a star seller or whatever. But if you have pretty pictures with pretty, your product, make your product look pretty, that's really the most important thing. As far as like tagging and stuff, I don't even know how to do that. I really don't, I'm not good at it.
Hmm.
But for me, I would say like the most of my traffic that goes to Etsy, I drive myself, and that's through Instagram. And I think one of the really big things is like finding your people that like your stuff, like finding your niche. And you really need to like almost kind of hone that down into like a certain group, and then start kind of following like those big influencers that are in that group, and get to know them and what they like, and maybe send them some of your product for free. Tell them that they don't need it. They don't need to necessarily promote it if they don't want, but you'd love to send it to them and see what they think. And a lot of times, if they love it, they'll share it with their followers. Um, so for me, like my big niche is like art teachers and teachers. And I
Mm.
found out like, so art teachers like really have my heart, because like in high school and even in college, like I just felt like at home in the art room. And so I just love art teachers. They're just my people, I guess. And so I
Hmm.
started becoming friends with a lot of art teachers on Instagram and making products for them, like earrings that look like little, posable men, and color wheels and stuff like that. And I found that like they love my stuff because it's like catered towards them, and there's not a lot of stuff
Mm.
catered towards them. So then it kind of blew up into like this thing where teachers and art teachers, and they like colorful, fun, young, like kidsy looking stuff like I do. Like it's just fun. I guess I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up in the 80s, like on Care Bear and like strawberry shortcake, but I love everything like rainbow and cutesy.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of my brand. Um, so that's like those are my people, and they support me, and they're like a great group of women, and I think it's really important to find that like group that like loves your stuff. Because if they really genuinely love it and they share it with the people that love the same stuff as them, you're going to be golden, I think.
I love that. Man, that is actually like super, super valuable info.
Yeah, that's really helped me for sure.
Yeah. Man, I really appreciate you taking the time
Yeah.
for just really sharing your experience. I think it's such a rich journey of just kind of so much going into making you who you are. And so now I feel like as I watch your Instagram or something, I have like a more full and complete picture.
Right.
And it's like, oh, this makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. I wish I was better about
Yes.
like just doing short little craft stuff for people. Um, but it's just not fun for me. Like I don't know. I'm kind of like one of those like closet makers, like, oh, hey, I made this and I just want to take a picture. Like, I don't want to show you how I did it because that's like a pain. But yeah, I wish I was better at social media, but I guess I do my best. So
Yeah. Well, man, Joe, we really appreciate you for coming by
thank
today. Now, before we let you go, we gotta let the people know, like, where can they find you? Where can they find your stuff online?
So I would say like the biggest, place to find my stuff is on Etsy, and my shop is called Oso Joe Designs. My Instagram is osojo underscore, because someone else took the Oso Joe and doesn't use it, so I had to add the
All right.
underscore.
I'm writing a third order
And
on
then
Instagram now.
my website's jogick.com. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, honestly, I hope everybody goes and follows you because you're not, and not just like the like video content or because that's great too, but just if you guys go to her Etsy shop, you're gonna look and say, "What? How the heck did she come up with this?" It's just I love your creations. I think you have such a creative mind.
Thank you.
If you guys want to feel bad about your own homes, go look at her spread in HGTV magazine. You'll want to throw out all your stuff and just recreate.
I know. You know what? I need to add all my work on my website because it's still on J&J Design Group, which is my when I worked at my firm, and most of the work on there is my work. Because I was a lot better at getting the pictures taken than my business partner was of her work. I'm like, Jen, you got to get your pictures taken. She's like, I know, too busy. So I just think it's important to have pretty pictures of your stuff so you can show people what you can do. That's all. That's pretty much the extent of it. Spend the money on the professional photographer.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I'm sure all the photographers love you for saying that too, by the way. Yeah.
But they do.
Alrighty. Well, again, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Customizing Culture podcast by Heat Press Nation. My name's Jared Barbosa, and today, amazing guest, Jo Gick, creator, interior designer, maker, everything.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's been our pleasure. We'll see you around, everybody.
Bye.